Non-chord tones. A non-chord tone, also known as a non-harmonic tone, is the use of a note that is not present in the chord. It may be diatonic or chromatic, and usually serves either to embellish or to smooth out melodic motion between or around chord tones. Melodic lines rely heavily on supporting harmony, but they rarely stay exclusively on chord tones. Since chord tones naturally sound complete and resolved, non-chord tones create a little bit of tension between notes in a line, and can be hugely important for creating interesting melodies. So, since non-harmonic tones are often used to smooth out melodies, if you start with a well-voiced harmonization, look for places where a melody can be more connected or stepwise. For instance, here, between the C and the E. After the C, we could add a passing D on the way to the E. This is the most common type of non-chord tone, known as the passing tone. It's a non-chord tone because D does not belong in a C chord, and so temporarily destabilizes our harmony, but only long enough to add a little interest in connecting two chord tones. The passing tone is approached by step and resolved by step in the same direction. You can also use non-chord tones to add movement to rather boring moments of inaction. Here, for instance, you might use something called a neighboring tone. A neighboring tone just steps away and right back where it came from. Non-chord tones can be either chromatic or diatonic. This D sharp would be an example of a chromatic neighboring tone, since it is not in the key, but it still acts as a neighboring tone. Another way to connect repeated notes is by using changing tones, which can be seen as a combination of an upper and lower neighboring tone. Two non-chord tones that kind of straddle a chord tone. Some chord tones are used for more of a surprise effect. This one is called an appoggiatura. Looks kind of funny, but it's fun to say. Appoggiatura, which is approached by a leap and resolved by a step. Here we see one in the soprano voice, as well as in the alto. The opposite of an appoggiatura is the escape tone, which is approached by a step, then escapes by leap in the opposite direction. In the first example, the soprano steps up to the escape tone and then leaps down. In the second example, the soprano steps down and then leaps up. Finally, we have the anticipation, which is just when a chord tone in the following chord is anticipated before that chord arrives. Here, the G in the following chord is anticipated during the D chord. The anticipation can either be approached by step or by leap. When adding non-chord tones, it's easy to inadvertently add parallels, such as here between beat 1 and beat 3, where you had a fourth moving to a fifth, which was fine, but adding the passing tone in the soprano inadvertently created parallel fifths. This would be avoided. Also, between beat 3 and beat 1 of the next measure, you had parallel fifths, and adding the passing tone in the alto does not negate the parallel fifths, because they're on strong beats. This may seem harsh, but after all, I'm just trying to protect you. So in this video, we've talked about passing tones, neighboring tones, changing tones, appoggiatura, escape tone, and anticipation. So all these non-chord tones are also hugely important if you're ever improvising off of a chord chart on guitar or piano or even vocals, to make your chord progressions a little bit more interesting. For instance, instead of this more boring progression, where you're just playing chord tones, try some passing tones. Or maybe changing tones. Neighboring tones. A well-timed appoggiatura can be really nice. Anticipations can really help you out. So instead of